camera turns on. A 65-year-old woman sits in a cozy old living room. There's a half-empty cup of coffee beside her and an old photo frame on the table. She exhales slowly, looking straight into the camera. Well, here we go. Lord knows I've thought about this 1,000 times and chickened out 999. But tonight I ain't chickening out. I got nothing left to lose. You see this face? 65 years old and it's seen a lot. 40 years of marriage. Yeah, you heard that right. 40 years with the same man. Charles James Donovan. My Charlie. She smiles faintly at the name, then her eyes turn sharp. Folks used to call us the perfect couple. Church on Sundays, barbecue on Saturdays, smiles in every photo. But honey, pictures lie. Oh, they lie like the devil himself. She leans in a bit closer to the camera. You want to know the truth? My Charlie cheated on me. Not once, not twice, too many times for me to count. And I knew every single time. She pauses. Her eyes glisten, voice trembling. I wasn't stupid. Women always know. We smell it in the air, feel it in the bed. The silence tells you before the lipstick ever does. Flashback. Her younger voice, soft and hopeful. Charlie, why you home so late again? You said the meeting ended at 6. Charlie. Don't start, Susie. It's work. You want that fancy stove, don't you? Somebody's got to pay for it. Memory fades. Back to Aunt Susan in the present. Work, huh? Always work. I swear that man worked harder at lying than he ever did at his job. I remember sitting up waiting for him, coffee cold, TV humming, me pretending to read a magazine while my heart was falling apart. And I never told a soul, not my mama, not my sister, not even my best friend Brenda, and she could sniff out gossip faster than a bloodhound. She looks down, tears slipping down her cheek. I kept it all in, 'cause that's what good wives did back then, right? You hold your tongue, you smile for the neighbors, you serve dinner like nothing's wrong. I thought if I loved him enough, he'd stop. If I stayed, maybe he'd remember what home felt like. She wipes her tears, straightens up a little. But love don't fix betrayal. It just teaches you how to hide pain better. She glances at the photo frame beside her and picks it up. It's a wedding photo. Look at us, 2 kids thinking forever meant something. He looks so proud. I remember that day. He whispered in my ear, "You're my one and only, Susie girl." Ha! If only I'd known he was practicing his lines for later. Pause. She sets the photo down and sighs. I kept quiet for 40 damn years. Do you know how long that is? 40 years of knowing every smile was fake, every I love you was half a lie. 40 years of covering up his lipstick stains and my own broken heart. She stares into the camera. Her voice lowers, harder now. But now, he's gone, dead and buried 2 months ago. And I finally get to speak my story, my truth. No more secrets. She takes a deep breath. Her tone shifts, stronger, almost dangerous. And you know what? Charlie thought he'd fooled me all these years. Thought he was so slick, so clever. But what he didn't know was that I had my own little secrets too. She smirks faintly. Oh, I played the sweet housewife, sure. Cooked his meals, ironed his shirts, smiled for the church ladies. But honey, I was watching, keeping notes, remembering names, dates, faces. 40 years' worth of dirt, and I kept every bit of it. She leans forward, her eyes fierce now. And now I'm going to tell y'all what I did with it. She gives a tiny smile, calm, cold, and knowing. Part of me wishes he could see this video, but maybe he can. Maybe he's watching from wherever cheating husbands go when they're done fooling everybody. I hope he's paying attention. She takes a sip of cold coffee, sighs, and leans back. I'll tell y'all how it started, the first time he broke my heart and the last time I let him. Well, you came back, huh? I guess you want to hear the rest, huh? Good, 'cause I've been holding this story in for too damn long. I remember the first time I caught Charlie cheating. I was 22. We'd only been married 2 years. I'd just had our first baby, little Tommy. Lord, he had the sweetest blue eyes. Charlie started working late, saying he had to make ends meet. One night I called his office, and a woman answered. Her name was Donna. I still remember her voice, soft, giggly. She said, "Oh, hi. Charlie just stepped out to grab a drink." Grab a drink. With her, I bet. That night I sat on the kitchen floor, holding Tommy, thinking, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe if I looked prettier, cooked better, smiled more, he'd come home. I wiped a tear, shaking my head. But I didn't leave. I told myself he'd change. That was the first lie I told myself, and not the last. So I started keeping things, little things. Receipts, notes, letters. He was sloppy, left them in his pockets, his briefcase. I started collecting them, folding each one and slipping it into an old sewing box under the bed. I smirked faintly. That box became my secret diary. Every time he lied, I added another truth. Every time he smiled at me with lipstick on his collar, I wrote the date down. 40 years of lies, all tucked away in one box. She picks up a small wooden box from beside her, old and scratched. This one right here. I kept it through every move, every holiday, every anniversary. He never knew. She opens it slightly. We hear the faint rustle of paper. Funny how something so small can hold so much pain. She takes a long breath and looks at the camera again. When he got sick, cancer, I thought maybe God was giving us one last chance. Maybe he'd finally say sorry, you know? But even then, he couldn't help himself. I found out he'd been seeing his nurse. His nurse, for heaven's sakes. I took care of him while he flirted with the woman changing his IV. Ain't that something? 40 years of taking care of a man who never took care of me. She wipes her tears again, voice steadying. But this time, I didn't cry. I just smiled, 'cause I knew what I was gonna do. She leans in, voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. I planned his funeral myself, every last detail. He wanted a big church ceremony, full of friends and family, like he was some saint of a husband. Oh, he got his ceremony all right. Pause. She looks directly into the camera, voice calm but cold. At the end of the service, I stood up. I had my little note cards, all neat and ready. Everyone thought I was going to give a sweet little widow speech. I started with memories, his kindness, his charm, how much he loved his kids. Then I said, but love without truth is just a fancy lie. And for 40 years, my husband told the prettiest lies you ever heard. She pauses, letting the words hang in the air. The whole room went quiet. His sister dropped her tissue box. The preacher looked like he'd swallowed a fly. And Susan chuckles, but her eyes are wet. And then I opened this box. She taps the sewing box gently. Started reading the letters, the names, the dates, the hotel bills. Oh, honey, I laid it all out like a sermon. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I just told the truth. She straightens, proud but weary. His perfect image crumbled right there in front of everyone. The neighbors, the kids, even the mayor. 40 years of secrets, gone in 10 minutes. She exhales deeply, the weight lifting off her shoulders. When I was done, I said, now y'all know the man I married, and now you know the woman who survived him. Then I walked out, didn't even stay for the burial. Silence for a moment. She looks down, then back up with a faint smile. It wasn't violent, it wasn't loud, but it was brutal. The truth always is. And for the first time in 40 years, I finally felt free. She sits back, looks out the window as the camera keeps rolling. You can't build love on lies, sugar. It always collapses. I wasted too many years thinking forgiveness meant silence. But sometimes, forgiveness is just letting the world know what really happened. She turns back to the camera, voice softer now. So, yeah, I took my revenge. Not with anger, with honesty. Charlie can't lie no more, but I can finally tell the truth. She smiles, gentle and tired. Maybe someone out there will hear this and find their own strength. Maybe they'll leave sooner than I did. And if they don't, well, just keep your own box. One day you'll know when to open it. She glances at the camera one last time. All right, that's enough for tonight. I think I've said what I needed to say. Sleep tight, y'all. And remember, even the quietest woman's got thunder in her heart. After the funeral. The video opens on the same cozy living room, but now the morning light is coming through the curtains. Aunt Susan's hair is tied up, her coffee cup replaced by a glass of sweet tea. She smiles faintly at the camera before speaking. Well, hey there again. Didn't think I'd be sitting here talking to you folks again so soon, but seems like once you open one door of truth, you kind of want to open a few more. She chuckles softly, stirring her key. So yeah, I told it all at Charlie's funeral. Every lie, every name, every secret. You could have heard a pin drop in that church, I swear. People didn't know whether to cry, pray, or run for the exits. She shakes her head, smiling a little at the memory. His brother walked out halfway through. His sister called me a cold-hearted woman. The preacher said he'd pray for my soul. I told him he better pray for Charlie's instead. She laughs, a small, genuine laugh, then takes a sip of tea. Now my kids, that was the hardest part. Tommy and Mary, they didn't know nothing. I'd kept them out of it all their lives. I wanted them to think their daddy was a good man. And maybe, in his own broken way, he was. I sigh, looking down for a moment. After the funeral, Tommy didn't call me for 2 weeks. Mary came over, mad as a hornet. She said, "Mama, why'd you do that? Why humiliate him when he's gone?" I told her, "Sweetheart, I didn't do it to humiliate him. I did it to heal me." She didn't understand at first. Took a while. But you can't explain 40 years of quiet pain in one afternoon. I looked up again, eyes wet but steady. I told them the truth, that I stayed 'cause I loved him, that I stayed 'cause I was scared to start over, that sometimes people stay, not 'cause they're weak, but 'cause they're hoping it'll get better. And I guess I kept hoping until there was nothing left to hope for. A pause. She folds her hands together on her lap. Funny thing is, once the truth came out, I didn't feel shame. I thought I would, but no, I felt lighter. Folks in town stopped by, some just to stare, some to say, "Good for you, Susan." Even Brenda, my old best friend, brought me a pie and said, "Girl, I always knew something was off about that man." I laughed softly, shaking my head. Guess I wasn't fooling everybody after all. Her tone turns thoughtful. These days I spend my time in the garden, growing tomatoes, watching birds, listening to the quiet. Sometimes I talk to Charlie's picture, just out of habit. I tell him about the grandkids, the weather, how the roses are blooming. Then I tell him, "You don't get to lie to me no more, old man." A soft smile spreads across her face. I ain't angry anymore. Not really. Anger eats you alive if you let it. What I feel now is peace and a little bit of pride. I made it 40 years with a man who didn't deserve half of what I gave him, and I survived. I'm still here. That's my victory. She looks straight into the camera, her voice slow, warm, and sincere. If you're listening to me, and you're sitting there with a heavy heart, maybe you're married to someone who don't see you the way you see them, let me tell you something. Your silence don't save love. It just buries you next to it. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. She reaches for her tea, takes one last sip, and sets it down gently. I didn't get revenge to hurt him. I told my truth to set myself free, and maybe, just maybe, to remind every woman like me, you're stronger than you think, honey. You always were. She smiles kindly, eyes glistening, her voice a whisper now. 40 years of secrets, and it took 10 minutes of courage to get my life back. That's a trade I'd make again any day. She leans back, sighs deeply, and looks around the room. Well, I think that's all for today. I got pie in the oven and a life to live. Finally, a life that's mine. She gives a small wave, her smile gentle but sure. Y'all take care of yourselves. And remember, truth may break your heart, but lies will rot your soul. Choose the break. The camera lingers for a moment as she looks out the window, sunlight catching her face. Then it fades to black. Well, y'all came back again. Either you're nosy or you got a soft spot for old love stories gone sideways. Either way, I don't mind. Feels good talking about it. Getting it out of my bones, you know? She leans forward, hands clasped, eyes gleaming. Now, I told y'all how I found the first one, Donna, the office gal, but that wasn't the last. Lord, if only it was. Charlie had a heart like a motel, folks checking in and out all the time. She smirks and shakes her head. There was this one, Nancy, back in '84. Charlie told me he was going on a business conference in Dallas. You ever notice how cheaters love the word conference? Makes them sound all professional while they're sneaking around. Well, one night I was watching TV, Dallas, the show, funny enough, and I get a call from the motel clerk saying they found Charlie's wallet in a room under his name with another woman's purse. I roll my eyes, grinning sadly. Man couldn't even cheat smart. I drove down there next morning looking like a mad woman in curlers and slippers. And there he was, sitting at the diner with her, eating pancakes like it was Sunday brunch. I laugh. Then I grow quiet. I didn't say a word. I just walked in, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "You forgot your wallet, sugar." Handed it to him. Then I turned right around and drove home. I think that scared him worse than if I'd thrown hot coffee in his face. I chuckle, but my voice softens. See, Charlie hated silence. He'd rather I scream than go quiet, so I went quiet a lot. I pause. She gazes into the fire. Then there was '98. Oh, Lord, that one still stings. I was teaching at the church school back then. Charlie was volunteering to help the youth group. Turned out what he was helping was one of the mamas. Her voice breaks just slightly, but she keeps going. I found a little card in his truck one day. Pink, smelled like cheap perfume, said, "Thank you for the lovely weekend, cowboy." Cowboy? He couldn't ride a horse to save his life. She shakes her head, half amused, half hurt. I remember sitting on the porch that night, reading that note over and over. Part of me wanted to throw it in his face, but another part, the tired part, just folded it up neat and slipped it right into my sewing box. Guess I knew someday it'd matter. She takes a breath, looks back to the camera, eyes soft but fierce. You want to know the truth? I used to think keeping quiet made me noble, like I was sacrificing for the family, holding things together. But really, I was just saving him from consequences, from truth, from himself. Meanwhile, I was drowning slow. She takes a sip of tea and lets the silence hang for a moment. One time, back in the early 2000s, Charlie bought me a diamond necklace for our anniversary. Beautiful thing. Sparkled like sunlight. I remember thinking how sweet that was, till I found the receipt for 2 necklaces. Guess who got the other one? Her laugh is hollow, but sharp. Yeah, Sandy. And ain't that something? The man bought us the same necklace. He didn't even have the decency to pick 2 different styles. I wore mine to dinner that night, smiling across the table, knowing she probably was wearing hers too. Twins and heartbreak. She pauses, looks down for a moment, fiddling with her ring finger where a wedding band used to be. I kept that necklace, not because it was pretty, but because it reminded me of the woman I used to be, one who mistook pain for loyalty. She looks up, voice gentler now. But every story, every lie, every betrayal, it added up. And by the time Charlie got sick, I wasn't the same woman who cried on that kitchen floor 40 years ago. I had hardened, quietly. You learn to wear calm like armor. Her eyes glint with quiet pride. And that's why, when the time came to open that box at his funeral, I didn't shake. Not once. I'd already lived through every heartbreak he gave me. That moment, that was mine. She smiles faintly, glancing toward the fire. You know, sometimes I wonder if he knew I knew. Maybe that's why he always bought me flowers after his business trips. Guilt blooms fast, don't it? She chuckles. One time, I told him, Charlie, you sure do buy a lot of flowers for a man who hates pollen. He just laughed and said, You're worth every sneeze, honey. Lord, the man could charm his way through Judgment Day. Her smile fades, replaced with something like peace. I guess I ain't telling you this to make you hate him. Truth is, I don't. I think he was broken long before I met him. I just didn't know you can't fix someone by losing yourself. So if you're sitting there thinking, that'll never be me, well, I thought that too. But life don't ask permission before it teaches you lessons. Just promise me this, sugar. If you ever see the signs, don't wait 40 years to listen to your gut. 40 years is a long time to hold your breath. She picks up her tea, takes a slow sip, and smiles softly. All right now, I'm rambling. Guess next time I'll tell y'all what happened after the funeral, how I rebuilt, who stood by me, who didn't, and how I found myself again. That part is not about pain anymore. That part is about freedom. She gives a little wink. So don't go far. Aunt Susan got more stories than Charlie had excuses. Well now, folks in town been whispering. They say wherever Charlie went looking for love, misfortune followed like a shadow. I ain't saying they're right, but I sure ain't saying they're wrong either. She chuckles softly. You remember Donna, the office gal? Sweet thing with a head full of dreams. Not long after she quit the firm, somebody mailed her boss a folder full of confidential memos she'd been passing to Charlie. Company let her go. Last I heard, she moved 3 states over, starting fresh. Funny how paper trails show up when you least expect 'em. She takes a slow sip of cocoa. Then there was Nancy from Dallas, Miss Conference Queen. She got herself a fancy job promoting conventions. Couple months later, her husband found out she'd been expensing personal trips. Oh, it wasn't me who told him, but folks do love talking, don't they? That marriage ended faster than Charlie's hairline." She smiles, eyes glinting in the lamplight. "Sandy, the necklace twin, bless her heart, she opened a little boutique downtown. Grand opening, streamers, champagne, the whole 9 yards. But somehow, right before Christmas, all her suppliers got word she'd been selling knock-off jewelry. Could have been a rumor, could have been something else. Town turned on her quicker than you can blink. She shut the doors by spring." She leans closer, voice dropping to a whisper. Now Brenda, that was the one who thought she was clever. She was married, too. Used to brag that she and Charlie had special chemistry. One day, her husband found photos in his inbox, just enough to end the story. Never knew who sent 'em. She packed up and left town before sunrise. Some say she's out west now, raising horses. I hope they're loyal." She sits back, letting out a breath, half smile still there. "You see the pattern? Things just fell apart for folks who shouldn't have been in places they didn't belong. I never raised a hand, didn't have to. Truth's got a way of sliding under doors all by itself." Her expression softens, almost sad. "I used to think I was the victim. Then I realized knowledge is power, and silence is the sharpest knife of all. People show you who they are. You just gotta decide when to let the rest of the world see it too." She twirls the spoon in her cocoa, the clink echoing in the quiet room. "Sometimes I wonder if Charlie ever guessed. Every time another one of his little darlings vanished from his circle, he'd come home looking pale, asking if I'd heard the gossip. I'd just smile, pour him sweet tea, and say, 'Mercy, that's a shame.'" She tilts her head, voice gentle but edged. "Guess you could say life balanced its own books. I just kept the ledger." A long pause. Rain grows louder. "Anyway, that's enough ghosts for one night. Some stories don't need endings, just quiet understanding." She gives the camera a slow, knowing smile. "Y'all take care now, and remember, fate don't need your help. But sometimes it appreciates the nudge." Old neighbors, even the sheriff's cousin. Everybody wants to know, "Susan, did you really do all that?" I tell 'em the same thing I'll tell you now. Depends on what you mean by do. She folds her hands on her lap, voice steady. "Truth has a funny way of traveling. You whisper it once, and before long it's running barefoot through the whole town, knocking on doors you didn't even know existed. Sometimes it lands gentle, sometimes it breaks windows. Me? I just whispered." She glances at the sewing box. "Everything in here, letters, names, dates, it's all getting burned tonight. Not 'cause I'm hiding it, but because I don't need it anymore. The past already did what it came to do." A quiet beat. She stares into space, remembering. Tommy calls more now. Mary, too. Took a while, but they said they finally understand why I did what I did at that funeral. Said it took guts. Maybe it did. Maybe it was madness. Hard to tell the difference when you've been living both. She chuckles softly. Then her tone turns thoughtful. "I still walk to town every Friday for groceries. Folks still stare a little. Some look scared. Some look proud. The truth is, I'm fine with either. People'll always see what fits their story best."
She leans closer to the camera, eyes bright with mischief. You ask me if I'm a good woman or a bad one? Well, good women keep secrets to protect others. Bad ones keep 'em to protect themselves. I reckon I did a little of both. She picks up the sewing box, sets it on her knees, and traces the lid with one finger. This box used to hold pain. Now it just holds proof that I lived through it. Maybe I did some things I shouldn't have. Maybe I only let things happen that needed to. But if I learned anything, it's this. Sometimes the only way to survive a storm is to become the thunder. She smiles gently, closes the lid, and snaps it shut. A faint click echoes in the quiet room. I ain't proud and I ain't sorry. I'm just free. She stands slowly, walks to the fireplace, and sets the box inside. The flames catch. Light flickers across her face as she turns back toward the camera. Whatever you think I am, angel, devil, fool, remember one thing. Every story's got more than one truth. This one's just mine. She pauses, lets out a long, calm breath. Good night, y'all. Be kind when you can, and when you can't, be quiet. She reaches forward, and the screen fades to black as the crackle of fire fills the silence.